Essa sensação que nos enche de felicidade. E você? Você sabe que eu te amo. Eu te amo.
Oh, what happened?
We didn't have microphones on.
Okay, let's
That
start
was
over.
such a good intro,
It was
too.
such a good intro. It was probably that's right. We got audio now. My mistake. Let's get that one more time.
Coming at you with another episode of Tampa Bay Real Producers Podcast. This, of course, is the podcast made for real producers, by real producers, and with none other than Tampa Bay's real producers, such as my man Jeff Borham. How you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing fantastic. Good to be here with you.
Dude, it's my pleasure. We're excited to have you here on this beautiful day on the corner of West Shore and Kennedy as we dive into your story. We've gotten to know Jeff, I would say, pretty well now over the last few years. We've had you in the magazine as a team leader spotlight. Mm-hmm. And I believe actually recently within the last year, a cover story as well, where we got to dove into your story a little bit more. So many of you might be familiar with Jeff. He's not new to the Tampa Bay real estate scene. His numbers speak for himself, and we'll dive into that. But we're going to dive into his success story here in just a second. So Jeff, it's good to have you. We usually get started with just a little bit about your background for people who might not know you as well. Why don't we start there, like how you got yourself into Tampa Bay's market? Did you grow up here? Did you move here? And how eventually you got started in real estate?
Yeah, I'm a native of the area. I was born in Dunedin, Florida, raised in Palm Harbor. I went to the University of South Florida, graduated actually from St. Petersburg College. I got into real estate by accident. You know, when I was 19, I kind of got disenfranchised with the university system, if you will, over at USF. And I went and bought a house up in Holiday, Florida.
Okay.
And, you know, this is May of '04 is when I closed on that property, I believe. And I rehabbed the whole thing. And then, you know, just that house wasn't the right fit for me, and I sold it. And at the time I was waiting tables at Longhorn Steakhouse. I'm driving to work, and on 93.3 FLZ here on your local Tampa Bay dial, there was an advertisement for a condo community, Tuscany and Innisbrook in Palm Harbor. And I'm like, you know what? I don't need a house. I'm 19. I should just buy a condo. Mm-hmm. So I walk into that condo community, and I tour, you know, a couple of the models. I talked to the sales manager. I'm like, okay, I'll take one. And, you know, at 19, I probably looked like I was 15. And, you know,
you still do, bro.
Yeah,
you still do.
Well, I appreciate that. The grays on my chin disagree with you. But other than that, yes, sir. So, you know, the sales manager is probably like 45, 50 at the time. And he's looking at me like, he's like, who are you? Like, he literally asked me, like, who are you? Mm-hmm. So what was funny is we're filling out the letter of intent, and I'm sitting across the desk from him, and I'm telling him the math to put on his sheet. And he's just like looking at me like I'm crazy. And, you know, after I bought that condo, they just asked me, they're like, hey, you know, would you ever want to just show the models? Mm-hmm. So just kind of accident how I got into real estate initially.
That's cool. So what were you doing for work at the time? How did you afford the condo at a young age?
Well, this was '04. There was this thing called stated loans.
Okay.
So I'm literally sitting there with my mortgage professional, and realistically, I'm probably making $500 a week waiting tables. This is 2004, and she's like, "Oh,
The stated loans environment. Good
yeah,
times.
yeah. I had my parents did it right. I got a credit card when I was like 15 or 16, like where it's really their card, but I got added to it. So I had fantastic credit. I had like a 740, 750 credit score. So if you had over a 700 credit score, they could put whatever they wanted on your loan app.
Right.
So, I'm literally talking to the loan officer. She's like, "Oh, you make 50 grand." I'm like, "No, I don't." She's like, "Yeah, sure. It's all good." She's like, "You've got 20 grand in the bank, right?" I have like 2 grand in the bank. She's like, "Nah, you got plenty of money." So that's how I bought the first place. So.
Interesting times for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So they loved you so much that they basically talked you into working with them as showing some of these condos. Huh?
Yeah, and started part-time, just 1 day a week, and they would, on the weekends, they were so busy that they'd bring in 10 part-time people just to show models because, again, this is '04, '05, so many people are coming through these condo conversions and new development projects throughout Tampa Bay that they would have help on the weekends.
Right.
And I was out selling the other 9 people by myself. So it was like me versus everybody else. So after a month or two of that, they're like, "Hey, Jeff, how about you come in on Tuesdays and Thursdays?"
Yep.
And then that lasted literally a week or two. And then they're just like, "Okay, come on full time."
So did you just find yourself falling in love with the whole real estate game right away? Or was it, what was the first early experience like for you?
Yeah,
Once you got your whistle wet.
No, I really did. I mean, it was incredible because, again, by the time I really started going now selling, it's '05, and obviously the market was booming, and for me it was different. I've had a job since I was 12 years old, and then for most of that time from 15 to 19 was hospitality. So to do something quote unquote at the professional level and not be serving tables in my mind at that time was a big deal.
Yeah.
And then to have that level of success, of course, part of it was the market, part of it was me just being, tenacious and not knowing not to call people 5 times to tell them they better sign the contract. And, so I sold, I think 77 condos in my first, 6 months.
Nice.
In the business. So that's
Nice.
pretty cool.
They must have loved you.
Yeah, I mean, I was out selling their supposed rock star salespeople that had been with the company for years.
Gotcha.
And, it was a different time. So my license then was actually with Smith & Associates, but I didn't make any inroads whatsoever. I've never been inside the Smith & Associates building ever, that brokerage, and I only made relationships with the developer side. So my mentor was really the regional manager for the developer.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so then how long were you involved in that niche before you started kind of branching out to doing the typical, I would say, residential real estate game?
Yeah, so I did that '05 through the end of '08. So then I entered the, general real estate world in '09.
And so once you got going in that space, like in your world, you knew real estate was going to be the career path for you. It wasn't like you were looking for other opportunities. You knew that this was the thing that you were going to build with.
Only in '09, I'm like, maybe I should be a bank teller, but I couldn't get hired as a bank teller. So I'm like, I guess I'll keep selling houses,
But now that you look back, it's like that cycle that you had to go through, the ups and the downs. I mean, that's probably taught you a ton. That's helped you and served you. And even markets like we're going through this year that are tricky for some people.
100%. I mean, look, when you're 20 years old and you start making really good money for a 20-year-old, you can get a little bit cocky. And, luckily 08, '09 put me back in my place, taught me a lot so that I could build a real business the right way and do it the right way.
Yeah. And if you guys don't know Jeff, I mean, he's a top 20 producer in all of Tampa Bay market. We're talking about somebody who's done over, you mentioned some of the numbers earlier, but what was the career numbers? I think $500 million?
Yeah, I think 650 million.
Yeah, that's not too shabby. I mean, we get to interview a lot of great people here in this particular podcast who have had all kinds of track records of success, and Jeff is one of those that his numbers are very gaudy. They're very impressive. And if you've looked into what he's built, it's extremely impressive. So we're going to dive in because at some point in your process, you really focused on team building.
Yeah.
And got passionate about growing an organization. And I think now, at least from my perspective, you're really known very well in the market as a great team builder. I think whether that's, generating culture, I know you're very good at generating leads for your organization and things that you've done there. You seem to be very analytical about that. We've talked about that a couple times before. So I'm curious, like, when did that start to happen where you maybe but changed your focus from individual production to, I want to build an organization, I want to build a team. Talk a little more about that.
Yeah, that's really 2015 is the year that happened. So I had my son was born December of 2014, and I had to get more purposeful. My wife at the time, is a gym rat, and she was teaching Les Mills classes, which is like, spin and aerobics. They call it RPM and body step. And she was teaching those classes at 3 or 4 o'clock every single day. So I had to be home to watch the baby because I'm like, look, like, I'm a new dad. Like, I'm not going to not see my kid. So I had to get really purposeful. So I started lead genning at a higher level. I made a deal with myself, and I found a peer accountability partner in the office to meet me every single day at 8:30 so that we could lead gen together. And I did it every single day. So I went from 2014, I sold 34 houses, and in 2015, I sold 85 houses.
Nice.
So that
personally,
the 85, I had a little help.
Okay.
So that's when I started building the team, right? Okay. So I brought in all the business, all the leads, and then, I ended up having 2 people also sell real estate that year. So that's the year that I'm like, wow, I can produce a lot of business, and to have the lifestyle that I want, I need people to help me sell the real estate, right?
Yep.
So that's the year that it started. And then 2016 is really the year of pain, because it's one thing when you've got leads flowing and you've got 1 or 2 agents and 1 assistant, like, that's nothing to manage. Like, you're sitting in the same office with your assistant half the day, and then you have 1 or 2 agents to like meet with or chat with and be like, how's your pipeline?
Right.
2016 is when I'm like, okay, let's make this a real business. So I scaled to 3 employees and 7 agents. So I quickly went from a 3 or 4 person team to a 10-person team. And that's when you grow up in this business. If you're going to build a team, is when you have to start really trusting people, because you don't have that direct level of oversight on 10 people that you do on 2 or 3.
Totally.
So that's when I really started to learn the business. And then I was fortunate enough to...
When you say learn the business, you're referring to learning the business of leadership, right? Like coaching, supporting, developing an organization, which is a different business than what some people think of when they think of, I want to be a real estate agent. Right?
Yeah.
Very different business.
Yeah, no, if I wasn't leading a team, if I was just in sales, I'm a monster salesperson.
Sure.
Like, that's just in me. I can go out and outsell anybody, period, the end. Yet I wasn't a business owner yet.
Yep.
So it's a big mindset shift to go from being a salesperson to being a business owner. And again, it's loss of control, it's trust, but then it's, verifying and holding people accountable. And it's just a different game. And that's why, candidly, there's a lot of agents that built teams over the last 3 years, just because 2020 and 2021 were so good and they had so much business and so many leads, but they haven't actually made the transition in their brain to be a business person versus a salesperson, which is why so many teams today are falling apart. And teams like mine aren't, because I have that 8 years of experience now of understanding leadership. And while it's never fun to have somebody on your team drop the ball, like, it's okay sometimes if that person is a learning-based individual that's going to learn from that mistake. So it's like being a parent. You have to let your kids fall down sometimes and get back up. You can't just, bubble wrap your kids out there, and you can't bubble wrap your team members either. You got to let them learn.
What do you think you find more exciting, or personally, what are you more passionate about? The leadership side of the business and what you've built, or the sales side? I know you're good at both, but where do you get more? What's more fulfilling to you?
Oh, leadership all the way. I think it goes back to, my experience in 08 and 09 and kind of getting, I'm a big Shark Tank fan. Barbara Corcoran endorses me. I also like Mr. Wonderful. And, Kevin O'Leary has a comment he says all the time when he thinks that somebody's being greedy or doesn't have a good business, and he's that basically they're going to get squished like the cockroach that they are. Right. And I got squished like a cockroach in 08 and 09. So my passion is for financial stability and then financial independence and financial freedom for people in this industry, because so many real estate agents live paycheck to paycheck, right? And if I can make an impact on 50, 100, thousands of people through platforms like this and change their life and, help them learn how to live a life that's less stressful and actually more rewarding in the long term, building wealth, and it's more challenging. Like selling real estate for me is simply not hard. I can go sell real estate. Right. At some point, if you want to grow as an individual and become a better person, you have to take the more challenging path, and building a team and leadership is 100% more challenging than just selling real estate.
How has that team evolved over the years? Has it ebbed and flowed even in size and scope? Or how many do you have now on your team currently?
We have about 50 people on the team.
Okay. So has that changed over the last, I guess it's been almost 10 years now, 8 years that you've been building a team.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit about that journey. Has it been a consistent focus on growth and recruiting, or at certain points did you even stop recruiting and just focused on productivity? What does that look like?
Yeah, 100%. So, 2016, 17, I became a business coach for other realtors. I was a high level trainer. So, I was teaching all over the state, training, all over the country. And I kind of had this mindset that I kind of had the team thing figured out. And
that's when crap hits the fan.
Well, yeah.
It always does.
Yeah. Whenever you
feel like you've made it.
Yeah. I did get a quick sense of like, oh, I got this thing on autopilot. Like I'm good. I can do all these other projects. And I call the real estate team is your bread and butter. Like it's great to have other projects, other businesses. And I do today. And yet the difference between today and 2017, 18 range is that I butter the bread first, then I go for the other items. So 2019, I built the team up to about 30 total individuals. And then, I had some personal things happen, and then COVID happened, obviously, in the beginning of 2020. I let the team float back down to about 15 total people.
Okay.
So we went back down to 15, and then
sometimes I think great teams need to do that just to trim the fat, so to speak, right? And kind of find out who steps up and who are going to be the real core. Because I'm assuming you look at your team now, and I know some of the people that are on your team. I'm good friends with Bobby Polini. I know he's one of your top guys, and you have some really talented people that are in your organization. And I have to imagine the things that you learned during those ebbs and flows have helped you identify what you want, right? And who's going to be a part of your organization.
Yeah. No, and when you're first building a team, you have this mindset like having people is a good thing, and then sometimes having somebody is a bad thing. So, one thing that I've learned now from running a team for 8 years is if there's a cancer on your team, if someone's complaining, just an energy drain, get rid of them. And that's just reality. They're bringing you down, they're bringing the other team members down. So that's something that no matter how successful or large my team gets, I will not stand for. If you are a Debbie Downer and you're just complaining all the time, what agents complain about when times are the leads are crap, or the ops staff didn't do exactly what they go work harder. Most of the people that are complaining to you're going to learn don't actually work hard. The complainers are working 5 hours.
The ones that have all the time to complain.
They're
not putting the time in the task they should be, right?
If you were calling your database, if you were calling, for sale by owners, doing open houses, following up with your leads, you wouldn't be complaining because you'd have business.
Totally. So, makes a lot of sense. In your perspective, Jeff, what makes a great real estate agent from your perspective today?
Knowledge, ability to understand things. I think that's one of the things that makes me different is that I've been in this industry in many different facets. I understand. I actually got a mortgage license before I got a real estate license. I understand the mortgage side of the business. I own a title company. I understand the title side of the business. I've sold commercial real estate. We still sell commercial real estate. I understand commercial real estate. I was raised by a financial advisor. I've been a day trader. I understand the economy at a very high level. I'm an economist nerd is really what I am. I'm a numbers guy. So I can look at the real estate world and business through all of these different lenses. I'm just not a realtor. I I have so many different lenses and educational experiences and life experiences to now guide me and help support my team and, you know, the real estate industry and other businesses that I'm involved in.
Yeah. Spoken like a true entrepreneur. I know you just said off camera that you attended an event last night with a bunch of entrepreneurs here in Tampa Bay. And I mean, that's probably the niche that I think well defines who you are, is thinking and operating as an entrepreneur would.
Love that.
That makes sense.
You said it better than I can.
Well, that's what I do here, man, you know. So you're still growing your team, would you say, right?
100%.
So when you now look at a candidate, right, who's applying or is interested in being a part of your team, walk through, like, what are some of the characteristics or qualities that are most important for you, whether that's your interviewing process. I'm sure you've systematized that somehow. Give us some best practices on what you look for, how you execute on that, and what's worked for you in that regard.
Yeah, people, that are on time for their interviews. Let's start with the absolute basics, right? Like, if something's super important to somebody, they're going to be at your office 10 minutes early and they're going to be ready, right? And then it's getting to know them. Like, I interview from a very holistic standpoint. Like, I'm finding out their motivations. I'm finding out their life story. Where have they been? Where do they come from? Do they have a track record of leadership or winning in life? You know, are they competitive? I love former athletes, right? Former athletes are fantastic. That
competitive drive, right?
Yeah. I mean, the number one agent on my team this year played basketball in college, and she's fantastic. I mean, she's fierce, and, you know, she gets stuff done.
What's her name?
Heather Sandlin.
Okay. That sounds like a rising star we should be featuring. Huh?
I think I've submitted her name as a rising star to your organization.
She's in the queue. Let's get it going. Yeah.
Yeah, she's only been in the business. Let's give Heather a shout out. Heather's only been in the business since November of 2020, and this year she'll sell about $25 million in real estate.
Good for you, Heather.
Not too shabby.
not too shabby at all. That's awesome. Yeah, well, that's a rising star candidate right there. We'll get you going, Heather, for sure. Reach out to us if you don't hear anything, by the way. TampaBayRealProducers.com, and we'll hook you up.
There you go.
So you were saying anything else? I cut you off there.
I don't know what the question was, but
qualities that you were looking for, just specific things, and what makes a great team member that you know from your perspective is going to be the type of person that you can build with.
I am looking for people that have a little bit, at least, of what I feel I have, which is that grit and grind to get through the tough times.
Yep.
Because this market does have ebbs and flows. And, you know, we just had, you know, from basically 2012 until the beginning of last year, we had a decade basically run of a really fantastic market to sell real estate in. And, you know, now we've been in about a year and a half of a much tougher market to sell real estate in. And the people that can succeed now are going to, make a lot of money when the market does normalize transaction count wise. And people, though, that have the mindset and fortitude to get through the rougher times. So how do you know? Well, again, you talk to them about where they've been, what they've experienced, what level of loyalty have they had in their, you know, previous employment. You know, nobody wants to hire someone and then leave, you know, 6 months later. You know, if you're hiring for a real estate team, I mean, you should be looking for people that should at least be 3 to 5 year agents on your team, you know?
Makes sense.
And we're looking for people that are humble in the aspect of, like, they know that they're smart and they know they can be good salespeople, but they know that there's people that have been there before them that maybe know more than they do, and they're willing to listen to them and implement those lessons. Because why bang your knees and scrape your knees over and over again? Like, trust me, I get it. Some of the agents have to make a mistake once or twice themselves to learn from it. And I'm all for it, as I've already mentioned. But at some point, like, you make that mistake once. Now, listen to the process, follow the process. Like, the systems on my team work. We know they work. Like, just do it. Like, you will make more money when you kind of, you know, relent a little bit and give in to the proven models that do work out there.
I don't know. I know you're very system oriented. We've had that conversation before as well. What do you think are some of the key systems that you've put into place that have really helped you in whatever the market's doing? stay consistent, right? And
Yeah.
grow your business. I know you seem to have a really strong focus on lead gen, you know, and I know you do various things to make that a reality. You don't do individual production anymore? Am
I do limited. Yes, I
limited
do still
amount.
sell houses.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. But is a lot of your focus on just providing this machine of lead flow that the team can benefit from? And
Yeah.
do you also, I'm assuming, teach self-gen strategies, right? For these guys
100%.
to be out, you know, hunting and prospecting on their own. So
Yeah.
speak a little bit to the different systems that you feel like are really critical for a great team to thrive.
Yeah. Well, let's start with what you just mentioned, like lead flow. So I believe in a third system. So a third of the business should be the agent working their database, prospecting. A third of the business should be things that we're doing together. And then a third of the business should be leads or appointments that we're just giving them, right? So we absolutely teach them how to fish while we're feeding them too, right? So it all starts with your database. We are very consistent and thorough on, you know, client database, SOI events. You know, we're doing 6 events a year. You know, our next event's
What's
on
SOI stand for?
Sphere of Influence.
Gotcha.
So we're doing, our next event is November 12th, right? We're doing a watch party for the Bucks game, beer, wine, food, watch the Bucks. Like most realtors will never call their past clients or database to touch base, keep in touch, build a relationship. Anybody can call you and be like, "Hey, Don, you want to come watch the Bucks game on November 12th?" And, you know, it's the littlest things. Like, I'm also a little bit of a psychology nerd, behavioral analysis, things of that nature. So just saying my real estate team is hosting a watch party and I wanted to call and personally invite you to that. Just saying my real estate team makes you sound like a big deal to your clients, to your friends.
Yep.
C, you're telling them you're in real estate without calling them, be like, who do you know that wants to buy a house, right? Like, you're not annoying. You're bringing some value to them and that gentle reminder to gain market share in their brain. So you need mind share before you get market share. So that's how we get mind share in all of our past clients and databases, by doing events, things of that nature, and then giving back in the community and having those people come with us. You know, we're going to, you know, help raise probably, you know, money and gifts and donations for 1,000 kids for Christmas, right?
Awesome. Yeah.
So that's something that, again, our whole database and past clients can be a part of and help, because who the heck doesn't want to save a kid's Christmas, you know?
I love the whole mind share over market share, or at least mind share first, right?
Yes.
Because that's so true. That's really the key, I think, to most service-based businesses, is how can you stay top of mind once the official or the first transaction is over, right?
Yeah.
Which, let's be real, I mean, the vast majority of real estate agents out there, once the first transaction's over, that relationship goes nowhere, right?
Yeah.
There's no follow-up. There's no ongoing relationship. But the common thread that I've noticed from my perspective with all the interviews we've done on the podcast and the magazine and everything is that the people who really thrive in this business distinguish themselves because they do things to defeat that, you know, that reality, right? They do it intentionally. Just like you just talked about. So utilizing technology to help, having a clear event program that you can continue to invite clients to, just caring and having a system in place that you can leverage to build those relationships, I think is any service-based business and professional should adopt those principles, I believe.
Yeah, no doubt. And then, you know, so that's the database piece. And then, you know, we do have 4 ISAs on the team that are helping to convert leads and, you know, set appointments for the agents. You know, I'm on the radio, I'm on TV, you know, really building that brand awareness. You know, my specific niche is actually attorneys. So I work with attorneys really well. So, you know, probate attorneys, divorce attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys. You know, I've got a great niche going there with people that need to sell real estate, right? Because right now the average person doesn't want to sell their house if they have a, you know, 2.5%, 3.5% rate and go get a 7.5% rate. It doesn't sound that great.
Right.
So having yourself set up for consistent listing business, no matter what the market, has been really a godsend for our team, because we get fed business from people that have to sell real estate.
That's so smart too, because it's through the attorneys that where a lot of that's going to like those are great funnels for leads right there, right?
1,000%. It's really buoyed my team. And here's the thing: most big teams in 2023 are selling less real estate than 2022.
Sure.
Most big teams in 2023 are selling way less real estate than 2021. My team in 2021 sold 112 million in real estate. My team in 2022 sold 124 million in real estate. This year we're going to sell over 150 million dollars in real estate. So we're going to be up 20% over last year, and we're going to be up basically 40% from 2021. And that is really rare air to be able to say that in this environment, because transaction count this year is going to be down 33% since 2021. So we've really grown by 70% in the last 2 years if you take into account the market transaction, depression, and our growth. I mean, we're beating the market by 70%.
That's awesome. And I don't think that's possible if you don't have a strategy that's revolving around multiple lead sources, right? Like you described. I think the attorney relationships is really smart, and opens up a whole door that most people have never taken the time to invest in. And I know that I have a little bit of a background in the investor side, because I loved flipping homes. I've dealt with some rehab stuff. I've dealt with some wholesale deals, and a lot of wholesalers, that's where they get their deals, is through probate courts and different, eviction leads and things of that nature, because those are considered the motivated sellers, right?
100%.
But the typical real estate agent out there, I don't think thinks in those ways in terms of using it as another lead source.
Well, Don, I'm a real estate investor.
I know
Imagine
it. I know
that,
it.
And that is a niche that we do a lot of real estate investing. So we do have an investment division on my team, and we are, helping people create generational wealth. We are helping people get out of bad situations. Like, sometimes people just need their house to be gone. They're going to lose it, or sometimes there's just a house in an estate and nobody wants it. It's in disrepair. It needs a lot of money put into it. And we're helping everybody. And that's the thing, is changing our mindset yet again. When we meet somebody, it's from a business standpoint, it's how do I help them and produce income all at the same time. And there's not one way to do it.
Totally.
There could be 5 different ways. Like, I could sit down with you and we could talk, and there could be 5 different ways to handle your situation and get an outcome for you to be happy and us to get paid. And that's what the ultimate win-win is, because I think so many realtors think inside this little box of like, I have to list the house or I have to sell them a house, versus maybe I want to buy the house.
Yep.
Maybe I want to wholesale the house. Maybe I want to hotel the house. Maybe we have a partner that wants to flip the house. There's so many different
owner
ways.
Financing is a good route.
Subject
to lease options.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great strategies out there for the people who open their brains to what's possible. I completely agree with that. Yeah, makes a lot of sense. And if that's what I kind of really appreciate about the investment side, because most of the great investors that I've been networked with, they think that way. Like, they're very creative with how they approach it. And ironically, there's a feeling in most of the investment circles that they don't like working with the typical real estate agent, because agents don't have that same creativity to them. And a lot of them will say things like, "Oh, you can't do that. It's illegal." Other things like that, which it's not really the case.
Yeah, well, real estate investors love me, so we are not in that boat. But yeah, no, it's so true. I mean, the typical realtor just thinks in a box, and and especially in these days, you got to think outside that box.
Yeah, I think you really do, and I think, again, that's how you allow yourself to grow in a market that isn't just cookie cutter, right? Like, having to figure out a way to be creative. Yeah. I know recently too, you guys have been building your team utilizing EXP, right, as your brokerage. Have some of the tools that EXP brings to the table, has that been helpful in this, growing in the way you have over the last year? Is there anything you can speak to there?
Oh, it's a game changer. And here's the deal. EXP is great, and it's not EXP. It's the groups inside of EXP. So because revenue share at EXP is such a legitimate business opportunity, it's an entire different playground to be an entrepreneur, provide a ton of value to people that you help bring into the organization, and really, really support those people. So I happen to be a part of the best upline and revenue share groups that exist inside of EXP. So the value that's provided from those groups is actually greater than anything that EXP or any other brokerage can provide. You know, the main group that I'm a part of is called the Fast Forward Movement, and we have all different kinds of masterminds and trainings, and this isn't that cookie cutter stuff that candidly you get at most franchise brokerages. Most franchise brokerages have been doing the exact same trainings for the last 10, 15, 20 years. It's this cookie cutter, rinse and repeat, base level training that's candidly today garbage. So the training and masterminding that we're doing is real. It's in the moment. How do we make money in the real estate market today? It's much more purposeful. And I'm fortunate enough to be with a lady named Jennifer Weiner out in Phoenix, Arizona. Me and her lead a mastermind on the second and fourth Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. Eastern for people doing 25 to 50 million in production. You know, and that's really that level where people are attempting to get that team going and built. And you know, both of us have some success there, so we get to lead that mastermind, and then we get to be students in what we call the Generals Mastermind, which is people that are doing 50 million and above. But most of the people in that group are doing over 100 million.
Nice. And
it's being led by guys that are doing, you know, 400, 600. You know, we've got a couple agents that do $1 billion in production a year.
Not too shabby.
So that's who we get to hang out and mastermind with. And I'm telling you now that if I was at my previous brokerage, I would not be up 40% over the last 2 years. So masterminding with that room has really enabled me to grow in this market, because it's all about the people you surround yourself with.
Tony Robbins preaches proximity is power. So
There you go. Love it.
I completely agree with that principle. And it's cool that they've built a culture that allows you to do that and almost be blind to the specific territories and just utilize talent, right? Anywhere across the country. I think that's awesome.
100%. It's a game changer.
Yeah, very cool. I think my buddy Tom Bramhall just joined EXP, right? Not that long ago. And
he's in our group.
He's part of your group, isn't he? Yeah. Do you know Tom now? Have you got a chance to connect with him at all?
I think I messaged with him like 2 Instagram messages, but no, he's in the like intimate group that I'm in. He's a peer. He's not in my downline, but no, he
runs Real Producers in Charlotte. North Carolina,
he named a good friend of mine as a sponsor, Andy up there, one of the top agents in Charlotte. So Andy and I are good buddies, and so I mean, he's in the same mastermind chain of people that I am.
Yeah, no doubt. So there's some talented people in that crew for sure. So for people who don't know you, I could talk to you for a long time, Jeff, about some of these business principles, because I know we're very aligned. I think I'm also a huge fan of psychology, and I study a lot of that too. And Tony Robbins, I think, provides a lot of that extra. Short story, I went to one of his events years ago, and I, from the outside, thought he was more of a hype guy, right? And then when you go to his event, have you ever been to any of his stuff?
I have, yeah.
Perfect. So you know what I'm talking about. It's very much like a high-level psychology, in-depth class, right? Where you're
100%.
You're working, there's energy involved, but it's all about how do you manage people's energy and how you understand the deep psychology of what makes us tick and how we operate. So for people who might not know you yet that well personally, we'll just give some insights into who Jeff is. So what keeps you fired up, man, on a personal level when you're not just focused on business and work? What do you love to do for fun? What are some of those hobbies and interests?
There's other things.
For some people anyway.
Yeah, no, I'm a proud dad. I've got a 8-year-old son, 5-year-old daughter. So really when I'm not working, it's generally time with my kids doing fun stuff. So
I see you guys on Facebook sometimes posting out there being a dad. It's cool.
Yeah, my son's a little stud athlete. I mean, he's in 3rd grade. He just ran the mile in 8 minutes flat. Fastest kid in his grade. He's very good at football, but he's elite at baseball. He's a little baseball stud. So I got to throw the ball with him 3 times a week.
Very cool.
You know, my daughter's 5, so she wants to play with Barbies. So I man up and play dolls with her son. But you know, the real fun for me is just doing activities and enjoying Tampa Bay, going to the beach, with my kids, taking my son to the Bucks opener. There's so much amazing stuff in Tampa Bay to experience. And, I remember when I was a kid, my parents did a great job of making almost anything really like an educational experience. So like when you're at dinner, when I was a kid, like my dad would ask me to like add stuff up, for instance. So like even though we're at dinner, it was math class.
Yeah.
Right.
That's cool.
And it's really taking those life lessons and attempting, for me to duplicate that with my own kids and the people on my team, not to go back to business, but like just be that giver all the time and enjoy it, like experience, because, going to psychology, the reason why adults' lives move faster than kids' lives is because we're not learning anymore. We're doing the hamster wheel and your brain puts you on autopilot, which is why it seems like your life goes by faster. So a big thing that I attempt to do is to challenge myself to do new things and learn new things all the time. And I do that professionally and personally.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's a good thought. I never heard that before, that the reason why as we age, things seem like that goes faster. It's just because our brain is operating on autopilot, but that makes a lot of sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
Look into it. Yeah.
I will have to look into it. Thanks, Jeff. I appreciate it. Are you a single guy now? Are you dating anybody? For the women out there that might have an interest in Jeff Borham?
Did you really go there?
I did, dude. I told you we get raw here. So
yeah. No, I'm as single as it gets.
there you go. If you're a woman out there who wants to connect with Jeff, you have to be cool with kids, I would imagine, right?
Yeah.
Jeff's got 2 wonderful children, so I'm sure that's what he wanted me to do. That's not why he came on the podcast, by the way.
Is this a dating show or a real estate show?
We get into everything, Jeff. We don't hold any punches back here. A couple rapid fire things.
Yeah.
What is your favorite book or seminar, maybe, or author that has made an impact on you personally or professionally?
Yeah, number 1, 7 Levels of Communication, Michael J. Mayer. It is a game changer for real estate agents.
I love it. 7 Levels of Communication. I have not read it, so it's on the list now.
Number 1, buddy. I'm telling you.
Okay, cool. I like it. So that's a good tip for those of you out there. 7 Levels of Communication. Amazon button. Click. Favorite food?
I'm a single guy. Grill steaks. Come on.
Oh, of course. How can you go wrong? Do you like to grill up at the house?
Yeah. I mean, I luckily I've got a Publix right on the way home, so I pretty much just pop in a Publix 3 or 4 times a week, grab some meat, go home, grill it.
Perfect. You said you live in Palm Harbor now?
I live in Oldsmar.
You're in Oldsmar. Okay.
Yep.
I love that area too, like Keystone area, right around there.
I'm in East Lake Woodland, so right on Tampa Road.
Sure. I know it well. We used to actually create a magazine for that neighborhood.
There you go.
Yeah, East Lake Woodlands Living, I think it was called, something like
Cool.
that. I know it well. What do you have a favorite like TV show or movie?
I'm pretty much just like a action kind of guy. So I mean, I've watched, Gladiator was one of my favorites when that came out. 300 then was, all of the, I'm a nerd too, so Star Wars movies.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. Star Wars guys. My boys are huge avid Star Wars fans now at the age of 6 and 8, so they can't get enough of it, man. That's all they want to do.
Yep.
I think they're going to be that for Halloween this year too.
Perfect.
Looking
Love
forward
it.
to it.
That's awesome.
All right, so we're going to wrap up with, we're running out of time, unfortunately, but we'll have to have Jeff back on another episode here soon. But one of the things I always like to ask about is, we interview a lot of entrepreneurs, we interview a lot of driven people on these podcasts, and so at some point, there's a legacy element to how when you take time to take a step back and look back on what you've built, right? And what you're most proud of, what you most want to be remembered for. I always call this the legacy question, but when you think about when that time comes, Jeff, and I'm sure you're a young guy, you got plenty of years, I would think, to build and still find maybe a different answer to this question. But what do you think at this point you would want to be most remembered for, and when you look back at the legacy you want to leave and that you're building?
Professionally?
Or personally, either one.
Well, professionally, I would say it's how many people have I touched and impacted their career in a positive way moving forward. People that have been on my team or on my team, people I've coached, trained. For me, it's the passion inside of me, and the reason the fire burns again is simply to help as many people find that financial stability. I have scars from 08 and 09. I mean, I won't lie about it. I do. And that creates that fire though to do something about it. And that's what successful people always have, usually a reason why they need to be successful, right?
Totally.
It's usually something negative happened to them and they want to overcome that. And for me, it's that I was ahead of myself and I got wiped out, and I'll never let that happen again. And I want to save as many people as I possibly can. And saved might be a strong word, but I want to help people have that legacy for themselves, for their family, right? I want people to be able to send their kids to college if they want to. I want people to be able to go on that vacation if they want to. So, helping people have income, steady income, multiple streams of income, that's what I want to be remembered for, is touching people in some way that helps set them and their families up for, long-term success.
We didn't really get to dive into it, but I'm going to ask you one quick question based on what you just said. When you look back at that time that you have scars from, what's one lesson that you feel like you can take from that will never leave you, that was a really important thing for you to go through?
Yeah, I think I got tied to one thing, and I wasn't at that time open-minded for searching for the opportunities, A, and B, I was young and spending the money. So, read The Richest Man in Babylon.
Great book. Yeah.
Set yourself up that you can go through the ebbs and flows. But I think that's the biggest lesson I learned, was that I was too attached to one thing, which was on-site development, sales. And, if I was a few years older, or a little bit wiser, I probably would have figured out quicker how to adjust to the short sale game. Because I did, it took me, I didn't really get cranking again until 2010. And if that would have happened today, I would transition on a pin needle and be selling a lot of short sales or REOs. But back then it took me so long to reinvent myself.
Makes sense. I love that. And I do know some people that actually specialized in that niche, right, during that time. And so, but I can understand that anything that's new, sometimes it's hard to just immediately make that transition.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
For people who might want to follow up with you, Jeff, and pick your brain, and we talked about a lot, I think, in our time here today, and I think hopefully it sparked certain questions and certain things of interest that people might want to connect with you on. What's the best way for people to reach you?
I'm an open book. You can call me, text me, Facebook message me. My cell phone 727-510-0187. Do not be shy. I'm here.
Perfect. We'll get that up on the description and stuff too, so that people can just click on it and be able to connect. And we're going to end the episode like we do every episode, which is with a challenge. And the goal of taking the time to watch this episode, whether you're watching this live on Facebook or YouTube, or you're watching the professionally edited through our mastermind, Rob over there, video that you'll see on our channel. Our challenge to you is to take one action step from what you learned from this conversation that's going to move you forward, either in a professional or a personal direction of where you want to go. Tony Robbins talks about, like, anytime you learn anything new, if you don't take one action step, chances are you're going to end up missing out on where you could have gained, what you could have gained from it. And so we did a lot today talking about some of the lead strategies that Jeff has built his business on, some of the things he looks for when he builds a team. Maybe you're out there and you're in the process of building a team, or you're trying to, figure out if you want to build a team. Maybe you just need to reach out to Jeff and have a conversation about his experiences of team building. Maybe there's something else. Maybe it's one of the books that he recommended that you just need to go ahead and buy and or listen to it on Audible. But there's a lot of different conversation points that we dove into. Pick something, find something that is going to move you forward in the direction that you want to go. And if you do that, then your time invested in watching this podcast will be worth it. We, of course, will see you on the next episode of Tampa Bay Drill Producers. So check you later. Stay classy.